welcome back to my channel. So today I have another Sims 4 speed build for you, and today I decided that I wanted to do a fall cabin. I love fall like so much. I am living for it right now. Like, I love a good pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin everything, spice everything, like love it so much. And I mean, it may be partially because my birthday is in the fall and is actually coming up. So if you've not subscribed yet and you're enjoying my videos, I would really appreciate it if you would actually subscribe, and it would be like a really awesome birthday gift for me. But seriously though, I was so excited about this, and I did actually use a cheat, and I don't remember if I've already said this in another video, but someone in the comments suggested that I use UI cheats in order to help me with like the seasons and the weather, because I do take screenshots with Sims. And I mean, if you've actually played The Sims, you know that the Sims basically do whatever they want to. The weather's awful, like it's chaos. So they suggested that I use UI cheats to actually help me out. So I did, I installed them, and it is a game changer. It made my life so much easier when I was trying to take photos of this lot, because it took a while. This does actually end up being quite a large lot, lots of room and space. And I actually was thinking about this in terms of possibly being like a vacation cabin. So I tried to make the rooms a little more generic, sounds bad, but that it would be somewhere that like multiple families would have stayed and all of that kind of good stuff. So it's not like quite as personalized as maybe some of my other builds, but I think it turned out so great. I tried actually Googling like fall cabins to help me, you know, get some ideas like architecturally of maybe what I'd want here, as well as just my own experience of going to like a cabin for vacation. So back, you know, at the beginning of, well, I guess mid 2020, I was kind of tired of being at home 24/7. So I actually got the idea of wanting to just go to a cabin, something that like my family and I could do, and we could be still alone, but we would be somewhere else alone and we would be together. So we actually found this awesome cabin up in the mountains that we went to, and so there are some aspects of that I pulled in here as well. Like that one had like a cool like game room space, and so I incorporated that into this build. So there's a ton for your Sims to do, lots of activities, skill building, all that kind of good stuff. I even end up including a pond here as well, and laundry, so your Sims could very easily like live here as their full-time like home, and you can download it and personalize it if you'd like to. It is already up on the Sims 4 gallery if you would like to download it, and of course do whatever you want with it. My origin ID is spicensprinkles, all lowercase and all one word, and it's down in the description if you want to see it all written out. But I was very excited about this build. I do spend a lot of time here actually trying to decide what I want these windows to look like. I did want it to have a slightly modern look to it, and so I wanted a ton of windows, just lots of lighting coming in, and it just like looks, I feel like, really awesome on the outside if there's just tons of windows. So I was trying to figure that out, especially with that like peak at the top, that kind of A-frame look there. Definitely made things a little interesting in terms of like finding windows that fit well. And like the cabin like my family and I stayed in, they had this gorgeous huge window actually in that like pointed space of that A-frame. And so I kind of wanted to replicate that, and that I really wanted like a big window there. So you can see I keep going back and forth. I do swap it out. I don't use that big window that I keep clearly trying to use, but that is actually livable space. There is several floors to this cabin. It is actually going to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, I believe. Hold on, wait, did I take that back? No, 3-bedroom, yeah, 2-bathroom. And I've built a lot lately, so it's all starting to like run together. And I also will note that I did have the reshade installed when I was building this. However, when I took the screenshots, this was one of the houses that unfortunately I didn't realize that the reshade didn't show up in the screenshots. So if you see a little bit of a color discrepancy between the screenshots and the build, I apologize. But I thought about going back and recreating them making sure the reshade was in it, but I took 186 screenshots of this house, and it took me so long that I decided not to, because I still felt like the screenshots did the build justice. So hopefully we're nearing the end of that weird reshade period where I've started stuff and things kind of got weird. But it took me a while to actually find the lot that I wanted to use here. And this is actually in Mount Komorebi because I wanted it to be a lot that had a ton of trees, like the view when you looked out, like it looked like you were in kind of a mountain space, lots of like vegetation, trees, and so you can see all the gorgeous fall colors. And I also wanted to be somewhere where the fall actually showed up. And I mean that in the way that I tried doing it in the outdoor retreat world, Granite Falls, but for some reason the trees didn't like change colors. So that kind of broke my heart. So I had to find another lot. It did take me a while to find this lot, but definitely worth it. And the family that actually lives on this lot in the game, for the life of me, I've now forgotten their names, but I actually used them for the screenshots. And I thought they came out super, super adorable. I love the way the screenshots turned out. Like I said, it took me a minute to take those, but totally worth it. Honestly, I just love being able to see the Sims interact with the home. It also kind of lets me play test it because sometimes I figure out like, oh, that for some reason is not working and I have to tweak it. So I try to do that before I upload it to the gallery, which I don't think I found any issues with this build, so you shouldn't have any problems. And so here I'm actually trying to decide what to do with this giant lot. It is such a big lot, but I ended up making these like clusters of trees. And I feel like a lot of times when I'm doing landscaping, I like to layer my landscaping in that a lot of times, like I'll put down trees and then I go in and put down like the lower lying like foliage and then just kind of build it up from there. And you can see me trying to do a little bit of terrain paint and trying to like help me figure out exactly what I wanted this space to look like. And so I thought it'd be kind of nice to have like two driveways entering the cabin and having this really cool like fire pit area in the back as well, where your Sims can hang out. So I ended up putting this like bonfire out here, and I ended up putting some like log benches out here, and I think it came out to be such a warm and cozy space. And I wanted to make sure there's a lot of outdoor space. I tried to mix up all of my words there in the backyard because the view is just so gorgeous on this lot that I wanted you to be able to see that when you're like playing this with your Sims. And so I just tried to add like just again, not like a ton of stuff around here, but just a little bits of like bushes and things to kind of liven up the space. And I do come back later and add in a little bit of debug fencing too to help give it a little more personality. But I added like a guitar out here, a picnic basket, some planting, like gardening stuff, and just, you know, a lot of things for your Sims to actually do. And I also end up using one of those pillows from the little campers kit, I think is what it's called, and put that out there. Like, you know, your Sims are out there hanging out, I don't know, maybe somebody wants to nap on the log. And then I ended up here in the front putting in like a truck, like I'm thinking the family just got there. I ended up putting like a cooler outside of the truck, like, you know, they were unloading their stuff and they've brought that for their vacation, and just trying to again make it just this very family friendly, nice space to vacation if you'd like to. And on the gallery, it is set as a residential, but you can easily set it as a rental lot if you would like to. You can also just pretend it's a rental lot. I mean, that's totally up to you as well. And then I didn't fill in the rest of that entrance space, which don't get me wrong, I was very tempted to fill it in, but I decided not to. I kept it to a minimum out front, so I am proud of myself for that. And then I did end up like putting some more pathways into the side. So off to the left of this build is actually where I end up putting in the pond, and your Sims can fish in the pond and like hang out there. I even put like a swing set out there, and the things that I'm placing right now, if you've not seen those before, it kind of came with some of the pond stuff, and it's basically like little spawn points for like fish, fireflies, dragonflies, like all of that kind of cool stuff. So in like when you're in live mode, you don't see those little things on the ground. Instead, they spawn like fireflies and dragonflies and like add like a really cool layer of nature outside. So in some of my builds, I like to add those just for like some nice ambiance outside. So don't worry, those won't be there when you're actually playing the game, but they're there so you can actually see what you're doing when you're building. And I know there's one for like a crocodile and all kinds of stuff. I did not use one for a crocodile because that just seems scary. And I didn't want that on my like really cute family vacation lot. So here's when I'm actually going in and adding in this pond here. And then I do end up using the like swatch of water. That sounds really weird, but the swatch for the water that has like leaves in it. Because again, I feel like it's just a nice touch because I view this as like a nice fall lot. Of course, you can use it in any season. It was just that I designed it in this fall. And I ended up adding like ducks to the pond, fish, like all that kind of cool stuff. So you see a lot of the spawns here, but you won't like see all of that going on at one time. And then just adding a little bit of foliage around, like stuff has grown up around the pond. And maybe that's just how it was designed. Like they put in some stuff around the pond, and I do put like a little seating area out next to the pond as well, along with like a little pathway. And of course I did this in 2 sessions, and naturally it deleted my terrain paint between my 2 sessions. I really wish it would stop doing that, and I wish that was a glitch they would take care of, because that is extremely frustrating, because I feel like terrain paint adds so much to builds. Like even just having that nice like gravel space I think adds a lot. And then I do go back and add a little bit of like the dirt around the edge of all of that stone like gravel, and I think it just adds a whole nother dimension to that space and makes it just look a lot more realistic. And you can see here I'm literally in debug, and you can see me swapping between like all 4 of those little like tree areas and finding different plants that I feel like would look good here and just adding a bunch of them around. And I just feel like it helped fill in all of that and made it look a little more realistic. Like there's a lot of stuff growing underneath the trees. Although, would that be realistic? Because the trees would actually cover up, like you would have a lot of shade there. So would there be a lot growing there? Well, we're going to pretend like there is, because I like the way it looks. And then I added just some rocks in there because I figured if you're around the mountains, like that's what you would have. And then again, just adding that little seating area, just a little space for your Sims to hang out if you want them to hang out there. And then just adding a little more foliage, just a little touch. I feel like it helps fill in some of that empty space. And I'm really bad about actually like putting stuff, like too much stuff, like filling in all of this space. So I'm trying to get better at just leaving empty space, you know, because that's realistic. Like most yards and places are not just filled with stuff, if you know what I mean. And then I do end up out on this side. I think I do it later on in the build, but I do put like a clothesline and like a laundry bucket out there, so your Sims can do that. And I loved having the swing set out there. I thought that was just so adorable that your Sims could hang out there and just have like, I can't imagine the views. Like I would love to actually visit this cabin and be able to like take all of that in. Like how gorgeous are these trees? And then I did remember to actually add in some supports to those balconies. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. And that's just that. Well, first of all, I think it adds a lot to the build to have those, but it also is just like not very realistic to not have some sort of support to this floating balcony. But I thought it was really cool to have like a balcony all the way around that A-frame space so the Sims can go out there and walk around. So we do put some stuff out there. Like I put the don't make the llama table, a chess table, we have the telescope, and a seating area out there as well. So there's lots of places for your Sims. So there's a lot of potential to have people over or just have a ton of people actually visiting this lot. And I did decide to include a hot tub here because again, like I'm feeling like this is like a really cool vacation luxury cabin, and that's something that would be really nice to have. And then I just added in like a table over there with just some supplies for the grill station, including the little s'more maker that doesn't actually work, which is heartbreaking, but I did add that over there. And I do actually add in like a bar area, and by bar I mean like a seating space, like a bar counter, so that, you know, Sims can hang out while somebody's grilling, and then just a space to eat as a family. And then I also add I don't know if I've done it yet in the front, but I do add 2 rocking chairs in the front, and I do kind of a similar thing back here. Again, thinking of just like having your Sims sit there and just read a book and just take in the scenery. And again, that's like just me thinking, not necessarily in terms of Sims, but just in terms of just that would be nice to do. And then I end up again trying to keep this like a little more modern, like not super rustic, but trying to keep some of those like wood tones and all of that in, so that it still feels like a cabin, if that makes sense. But there's a ton of room in here, and I really like the way all of it turned out, to be honest. And on the back right here is where we have the telescope and the Don't Wake the Llama table, which I think I add a little bit later because I come across it and I was like, ooh, that would be great out there. I feel like that happens a lot, especially in larger builds where I see something, I'm like, oh, I want to use that. And I like just throw it somewhere and then use it later. And then I don't put a ton of stuff out here on the front balcony as well, which honestly, like I was tempted to just like fill it up with stuff, but I did try to keep it more to a minimum and just let it be kind of open space. And I do end up moving around the windows here when I do the floor plan on the first floor. It was very interesting trying to figure out like where to put the stairs and everything. So I ended up having to move the windows because, of course, like the way I put the windows on that first floor, they're like in between tiles. So like if I was trying to draw like a wall, it intersected a window, which honestly, I really hated the way that looked. So I scooted them around a little bit. So it has the same look. Like we didn't lose any windows, but it just had to change. And I think at some point when I actually work on putting the stairs in, because I think at this point I'm just denying the fact that I'm gonna have to do that. And since of course the second floor is smaller than the first floor, that greatly limited where I could put those stairs. So I think at some point I end up just like all of a sudden we come back and I have a floor plan because it took me a while. Like I paused my recording, I was like, this is gonna be chaos if I leave it in and not everyone has to see like that. So just know that it did take me a minute to do, and I only say that because like if you're building, like it is not necessarily always an easy thing to do, but we may pause it, you know, and come back to it. And fun fact that I did not realize until I was taking screenshots, I did not put a fridge in this kitchen. Don't worry, I did add one. I cannot remember if the fridge is on the gallery or not, so just so you know, you may have to add in a fridge. All I did was take out that corner piece over there on the right and put in a fridge. But it was funny when I was taking screenshots, I was like, okay, go cook something. And they were like, I can't. And I'm like, why? Like, what is wrong? It took me a while to figure out that it's because I did not put in a fridge. I've never done that before. I've never forgotten a fridge. So, you know, there's a first time for everything. So sorry about that. But I do end up adding one, and you may have to add one off the gallery. Like I said, I can't remember if I actually, I think it's on the gallery. The build is, whether or not the fridge is in it. And so I end up like deleting that decorative piece I have over there, and which really bugged me because I really like the symmetry there, but we need a fridge. That had to be a thing I put in the kitchen. And I did opt to use the separate like stovetop and oven because I kind of liked the way that looked and like allowed for more mobility around the kitchen. And then adding in this dining room, which I'm not gonna lie, it took me some time. I think part of the problem was, first of all, the windows aren't centered in that space, which bugged me a lot, but I really liked the way they looked on the outside of the build, so I didn't want to move them. And I also struggled a lot, honestly, with wood tones. I know, shocking, The Sims 4 does not exactly have a reputation of having matching wood tones, so that definitely took me a while for that space to actually make sense and look okay. I went back and forth a lot between like a light wood and a dark wood, and thinking that I wanted to use that more natural looking table. Like I really like that idea, but I don't think I actually end up using it because the wood tones did not match and it made me crazy. And I wanted to use the chairs that matched the bar stools, so it was a whole entire thing trying to figure this out, whether I went with the light or dark. But of course the chairs didn't really have a light tone. It was a whole thing. But I do end up adding in some cabinetry back there. I figured that would be really nice, like using it as like a buffet, entertaining space to put stuff out. I feel like it's a little touch of a more formal like eating space, but I feel like it would be really practical, especially if you use this as a vacation home. I mean, in real life, you would probably put stuff out there and like, you know, have all the things you bring. I feel like every time I go on like vacation, I say that like I go a lot, but when I go out of town, I feel like, first of all, I pack way too much. And then when I get there, basically my stuff explodes everywhere. I don't know if anybody else is like that, or if some of you are actually a lot more organized than me. Like, because my stuff ends up everywhere, it looks chaotic, and then of course we clean everything up and it looks like we were never there when we leave the hotel. But like, wow, stuff gets put everywhere, and I feel like I would end up unpacking and put stuff all over that countertop in the dining room. But I do end up adding that cute little like chef pig over in the corner. I just feel like it was so adorable and something that would be like in a vacation space. And then this actually over in the corner is actually going to be a bathroom. And I'm trying to remember, none of the bathrooms are actually attached to a bedroom. And again, some of that is because I felt like this would be a vacation home. And so there's just like, it wasn't quite the same that maybe I would do like a normal home where there'd be a lot of en-suites, stuff like that. And this is the beginning of me trying to figure out where to put these stairs, which just caused me so many problems. So you can see all of a sudden now, like, it just changed. And so I have now a floor plan, and that's, like I said, because I was struggling so much. And I was thinking about putting in like a skylight as part of this A-frame, but because I actually put floors in there, it just didn't work out quite right. I tried a lot, and I left this in case you were wondering how you would actually put in a skylight. But like I said, I think this would have worked better if I didn't have that third floor there. It would have been much better. But since I had it there, it didn't look quite right. So I do end up unfortunately taking it out, but that was an idea that I had at one point to actually put that in. Like you can see, I'm trying to troubleshoot this and make this look okay, but then it kind of felt weird just to have the one piece. And so anyways, I do end up abandoning that idea and just leaving it as a solid roof. But you can see here, I've now magically have a floor plan, and this is at the point where I'm like, I need to move these windows around. And so I end up having that bathroom and then a bedroom downstairs, and then the living space here, and then, you know, the rest of the kitchen and dining is here as well. And so you have this nice big entryway. I end up putting like a big cabinet in there. Like I feel like you unload all of your stuff. Maybe you went out and went hiking, and this is where you put all your things when you come back, like that kind of thing. And like I say that like hiking is something I do. I'm not really an outdoorsy person and I don't go hiking. But you know, if your Sims like do that, or since this is in Mount Komorebi, like if you go and like snowboard, that kind of thing, like, you know, maybe that's where they put their stuff. And again, you don't have to actually put it in this world or on this specific lot, but I include that information in case you are looking for that lot and you liked it on this one and you wanted to use it there, just so you know. But you can put it, of course, anywhere you want to, so long as the lot is big enough. And I cannot remember exactly the dimensions. Like maybe it's a 30 by 40 or something, or I guess 40 by 30 technically. I feel like that's kind of the range. It is not the biggest one in the game. And I don't often build on the biggest lot in the game, which is like 64 by 64, I think, because I just can't even imagine like building on that. Like, because you would just have such a large house or a lot of landscaping to do, and I feel like it might be a little overwhelming for me. So who knows? Maybe I actually need to try it. I did build the modern dollhouse on that lot though, and I did struggle with not putting a ton of stuff in the yard. But if you haven't seen that, be sure to check that out. My speed build playlist and other playlists are linked down below if you want to check them out. And I finally did post the interior of that one because of screenshots. I was avoiding having to take those. But they are finally up on the channel, so I'm excited that that's finally out. And I definitely went back and forth about this space. I really like the idea of that fireplace kind of being between the rooms, and you can still see between the rooms. Like I really like that, like half wall, like you have a nice separation, but you can see people everywhere. So if you have people over, that kind of thing. And then just this huge, it's actually a really huge living room, to be honest. I feel like I don't usually use like 2 full-size couches in my builds because it's just so much room, but I feel like it worked really well here. And I kept everything like really wooden and things like that, but like the leather I feel like makes it a little more cozy and modern at the same time. But I don't put a ton of stuff in here, again, because I'm thinking vacation home. But if you use this as your own residential lot, then you can add more personal touches, things like that. And I randomly found that like campfire, and for a second I thought about changing it out in the back, but I kept the one that was out there. But that was a thought that I actually ended up having. And I really love the way that this living room came out, and I do end up actually putting in the TV kind of on top of I keep wanting to call it a chimney. It is a fireplace. That's like the third time. on top of the fireplace, and it does work there, by the way, since I did take screenshots. I have done that before and I feel like it didn't work. I just feel like The Sims just decide randomly when stuff actually works and when it doesn't work. And I kept a lot of the like pictures and things that I put on the wall, like make them like more naturey and not like super personal, because again, this is kind of like a vacation home. And I thought that was really nice that the stairs are kind of tucked away a little bit off to the side. And this is when I came across those fences that I was like, this would look really cute outside. So I add those around, and I think it added actually a lot of personality to the front, and I think it really looked really nicely here. And so I just added those randomly. I feel like because the lot was big and there was just so many potential items I could put out, that I kind of jumped all over the place several times throughout this build, so I apologize for that. But I just would find an item and be like, oh, I have to put this out somewhere before I forget about it. And then I think here I'm just looking for, I was trying to find the remote. I was trying to put that out on the table, and for the life of me, couldn't find it. Don't know why. I feel like I used to be able to search it and it came up, but now when I'm searching stuff and it tries to search in debug, it just puts me somewhere random in the catalog that's not at all related to what I was looking for. So I'm not sure why it does that, but here we are. And of course we have these lovely windows in the bathroom, and because it is a smaller bathroom, I end up just using a shower in here, but of course you can swap it out if you have toddlers or anything like that. And I'm trying to remember if the other bathrooms have a bathtub in it, and I don't remember. I think one of them does, so you wouldn't necessarily have to swap this one out. I didn't include like any toddler beds in here, but of course that's something you can just easily edit. If you want to use this as a rental and just your family has a toddler, then you can easily add those things. And then I'm just adding a little bit of clutter here under the stairs, again thinking this is stuff that like you've picked up maybe at a farmer's market, that kind of thing. And then maybe they've won some awards, you know, all that kind of good stuff. And then I do end up adding a laundry basket under there as well later when I decide that I want to put laundry on this lot. I feel like I don't put laundry on lots very often because I don't know how many people actually play with laundry. I feel like some people think it's just way too close to real life and they don't want to do it in The Sims, but also I don't blame them because your Sims really like to set fire to things, like, and a washer and dryer, the dryer is one of those things. Like I've even had like, I think it was a maid or a butler, like their job is literally like cleaning, and they set my dryer on fire and like die in my home. Like that doesn't even make any sense to me, but you know, The Sims, what are you gonna do? So I'm just adding a little bit of clutter here, and I tried to, again, like use the same lights everywhere, keeping the curtains very similar because I wanted it to be really cohesive like a rental, and not putting like a ton of really personalized items, but just space for people to like put their things if they're staying there. So again, that's like the gist I was going after. And then I really like the blue we end up using. So I figured out, I think when I was doing this, that this curtain has a swatch that has fall leaves on it. Like, oh my gosh. So I do end up using that later. I almost just like redid this room when I figured that out, but I did not. I was like, I can do this later. There will be other rooms in this build that you can utilize those curtains. And so on this second floor here, I end up putting in another bathroom, another bedroom, and then this larger space here that opens up onto that second floor balcony is actually like an entertaining space. So I end up putting a bar in there, as well as the ping pong table and some sitting space. And I do also go back, I think close to the end of the build, and add in a toy chest, since like I said, I didn't have a lot of personal touches here. But I wanted to put that in because I feel like if you do use this as a rental, it is such a big one that I feel like you might actually have a kid on the lot. So there is something for them to do. And then this space, I ended up just adding in like this bunk bed situation. And depending on whether or not the Sims are in the mood, that bottom bunk, you may end up having two Sims on it. That's kind of a toss up though. I think they're supposed to like get on the bed and like crawl over to the other side, but I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews on whether or not that works. And like people are like, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So you know, we'll see what happens when you use it, but I liked it so much and I was so in love with those curtains. I thought they were so fantastic and fit so well. And then I wanted to include a computer somewhere on the lot just because it's so useful in The Sims. And if you did use this as a house or even as a rental, that's something useful to have. So I was sure to include that somewhere on the lot. And since this was kind of a longer, odd looking space, I wanted to end up including that in here. Oh my goodness, all of a sudden my recording software started acting really weird and throwing a bunch of errors. So I apologize if I sound a little different because I had to stop my recording and restart it, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't like freak out anymore and I can get through this video without it falling apart. And that wouldn't be the first time it fell apart though. So I mean, I'm telling you, ever since I've started like video editing and doing YouTube, I've learned so much about troubleshooting, recording software, like it's been very educational. But anyways, you see, I just found the Don't Wake the Llama table. So I ended up putting that outdoors, and then we add in just the bar here. I just wanted this to be a really fun hangout space for your Sims. And I think that would be a really good place for them, and then adding in some of the bar stuff there. But I don't add like a ton of stuff here in this room because I wanted to keep it a little more open. But like I said, I do add the toy chest in. I can't talk. Toy chest in a little bit later, and then I do end up putting like a couch on that wall, thinking like, you know, your Sims are hanging out, you know, they're waiting for their turn to play ping pong, like that kind of thing. But again, using all those warm wood tones in here. And I did go back and forth a lot about like what I wanted to put because I really wanted to put something kind of on that wall. But I ended up adding those nice like wooden slats on the wall behind the bar, which I think worked out really well, and I really like the way they ended up. And they matched the wood, like surprisingly, shocking. They actually worked there. And so I was very indecisive about these wall pieces. Those are the ones that I used down in the kitchen, but I was very back and forth about them for a very long time. And then I noticed that it just deleted the door out of nowhere. I'm telling you, it just does whatever it wants sometimes. And then on this final floor, I ended up putting in another bedroom up here, and I ended up again using those curtains, and I made this like a cool, like almost spare bedroom feeling slash like bonus room kind of space, because I end up putting in like the game console and a TV up here, so like your Sims can come and hang out here, and again, just having more stuff to do. I was thinking about using the Murphy bed here, but I just was really worried it wasn't going to work properly and your Sims couldn't get around it, so I ended up just using bunk beds up here. And then that other space, since you had those lovely windows looking out into the backyard, I just used that as like a small seating area, like, you know, your Sims can go and like read and hang out, and I put like a little fireplace there, like that little furnace one, and I thought it just was super adorable, so they can look out onto the balcony and be all warm and cozy by the fire. And I say that like I like have fires in my own home, but, and that sounds really weird of a statement, but like where I live, it is hot basically all of the time. So I never really use a fireplace. I have one of those like built-in electric ones like in a cabinet that I just like because it looks like there's flames, but it doesn't actually produce heat, because that's just so unrealistic and it would make my house so hot. And I definitely like keeping my house cooler anyways, which I guess maybe that's why I like the fall weather a lot, is because it's cooler, because the summers are miserable and it's totally like not my thing. But I do end up just putting in some pieces here, and those trunks do act as a dresser. So again, your Sims have plenty of places to like change their look and get ready and all that kind of good stuff. But I thought this was a cool place for like the kids to hang out and just more activities for them to do. And then I do end up, I believe in that seating area, I think I do use the egg chair that we got in the high school pack. I was so excited that I was able to use that because I love that item so much. And I feel like I've tried to use it a lot, but it just doesn't always fit, you know, like it just doesn't fit the aesthetic. Even though you want it to, it just doesn't work out. And by the way, the chair that's right there, I believe I fixed this for what's on the gallery, but if I didn't, that second chair on the right blocks the ladder, and I wasn't even thinking about that. For some reason, I was thinking your Sim somehow would just like get off the ladder on the other side. Like that's just not realistic at all. So I don't know why I thought that, but that is removed. So there's only like one chair up there, and it is like a really small, like cozy space. And I think that it just turned out really nice. So again, a ton of space for your Sims to hang out. And so at this point is kind of when I'm just doing some finishing touches, things that I want to add, thinking through activities I might want to put in here, and all of that kind of good stuff. And then so here we add that hamper in there and putting out the laundry area and just making a nice little connected pathway over there, because I try to make all of the spaces kind of connected, like there's, you know, it makes sense from going from one place to another. So here just adding in the toy chest so that they have something to do here on the lot as well. And then I added in that adorable like fire table because I just felt like that was so nice and cool. The cabin I visited had one and I love it. It was so awesome that I wanted to include one here on this lot. So just finishing up some of the touches here, just kind of connecting and making everything just look really nice and cohesive. But we are nearing the end of this video, so be sure to stick around for the screenshots. They are awesome. I love them so much. And of course, as always, if you have any suggestions or comments, be sure to put those down below. I'd love to read through those. And on that note, I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.